that's us, the Brace family. We've got three kiddies. We've got Jonah, obviously Marnie, Kobe and Bonnie. They're 8, 5 and 3, and with full-time jobs. They're full-time jobs themselves. We didn't find out anything until later on in pregnancy. I was about 31 weeks pregnant and just had a feeling that something wasn't quite right. Marnie was our second pregnancy, and I know they're all different, but at the back of my mind, I think just had a feeling that something wasn't right. So we ended up going for a scan at our local hospital at 31 weeks, and they picked up that the walls of baby's heart were a bit thicker than they'd like to see, and they said that they'd make an appointment for us to come up to the Evelina to get a scan of baby's heart while she was in my tummy, which was quite, this is the first sort of, didn't even realise that was a thing. We left holding hands from the Evelina and we walked without talking, and we walked by the river. And I remember thinking, how can everybody carry on with their lives? Do you not know what's just happened? Just at 31 weeks pregnant, I've got my baby bump, and just I felt like the world had ended. And we had to go home and see Jonah and still be mummy and daddy, and
happy and upbeat.
Yeah, and not sad.
Although that does sound sad, but actually Jonah gave us a lot.
Oh. Yeah, actually he did make things better.
He actually made things easier for me, because if I didn't have him, whilst I would still obviously look after you, it's different when you've got a child. Yeah. I remember that time being more upset for Amy, because she was blaming herself, which is typical Amy, thinking it's something she's done, being, trying to listen to her and her kicks and everything, and putting so much pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
I found actually that the hardest bit, because obviously she's my wife, so I love her more than the world, so I couldn't stand the pain with her. When
she was born, she did incredibly well, because obviously we were induced, and she came out with like a superhero with one hand first. You couldn't really have asked more for the birth, could we?
No.
With the specialist nurse, there's a special cardiac nurse there. She was wonderful.
St Thomas, they were wonderful at St Thomas.
Yeah, absolutely.
They whisked her off.
Yeah,
which is part of the protocol with me. Dad goes, I left Amy.
I think after giving birth and then having a baby not with you, and all the skin to skin things that you're supposed to do and you want to do, it's kind of taken away. And I think it was a good hour or so before I came down to see Marnie.
I mean, we didn't know how she'd come out. From my point of view, I didn't know. They couldn't guarantee that she was going to be alive. It was just devastating. There's no other word to describe it. Just absolutely devastating. Yeah, the fear. Yeah, the fear.
Yeah, she did brilliantly. I honestly couldn't have asked for a better experience.
No, which is something
little trooper.
Which is something that went right to the end.
Yeah.
Being a trooper, yeah.
Yeah. So when we were in the Evelina, I can't remember how we even found out about Echo. I just remember you kind of appearing like a fairy godmother.
I think if you're at the Evelina, you just hear about Echo. Maybe it'll be something in the parents' room or something.
I do feel like it's a little bit like a fairy godmother. Like we had a family support worker who from Echo, and she helped Jonah with sort of staying quite locally in the play area at first, and ended up they got on so well, didn't they?
He loved her.
Yeah, and she took him off to the park quite often, and it made that time so much more manageable. When Marnie was obviously put on the organ donor list, the recipient list, we're very aware of sort of the law and what sort of around organ donation at the time. So we're talking in 2016, where the system was very much the opt-in system. So if you wanted to donate your organs, you would get your donor card, and you would express your wishes. So we started sort of campaigning to change the law to this, opt-out system, which incredibly came through in 2020 with Max's law, which I always find quite ironic because little M was Max or Marnie. But Marnie was really key at being part of that campaigning for law change around organ donation.
And I remember feeling silly because, again, I'm possibly always too positive. I was clasping to the idea that she could have a new heart and she would be fixed. But when they told us and they explained the process of having a new heart and how the hearts last 15, 20 years and how it isn't something that's going to last for 70 years, 80 years, it just devastated me, that bit, more than any other news, because I truly thought she was going to get a new heart, and then miraculously, hopefully she would live to be a 90-year-old lady or something.
We knew what we wanted to do because I don't think we could have given up on her, and I think the fact it was an option, that it felt like the choice at that time was, you can have 15 years of Marnie or you're going to lose her soon, because that they could only go on the data they had at that point of how long recipients were living for. So although the expected sort of timeframes were probably well in excess of 15 years that she would have been here, but you can't guarantee that. You can only go on the data that we've got now. Horribly hard journey after that, but I remember that Marnie went on the recipient list on the 26th of August.
So in the days before her passing, she had got worse and worse. You could see it in her face. She was clammier and she was sweating. Grey, yeah. And she just looked like she was working so hard. And I'll forever believe that it's only because she loved her family so much that she fought right to the end to spend as much time with us as possible, and I truly believe that in my heart.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
But she was going downhill more and more and more, and then she was moved to intensive care, wasn't she?
Yeah. And then they'd been umming and ahhing about whether to put her to sleep, basically, sedate her, to try and take some pressure off her heart by incubating her. And I remember looking in her eyes and thinking, that's the last time I'll see the colour.
Her rhythm was just all over the place, and it was the end.
10 o'clock on the 26th of October.
I think
cuddled up. But,
I think the most important thing for any other parents who go through anything like this is to know that each journey is an individual thing, and everybody has different feelings, and there's no right or wrong. So an example being Amy being so close and being such a great mom, you kind of knew what was going to happen, you said.
Yeah, you would.
Whereas right up to the last second, I never thought she'd leave us.
I'd been with her for quite a stint, and then it was you sort of came in and I was going back to go to sleep. I knew straight away,
something.
and I knew I had to get there as quick as possible. And strange, but I actually put my running trainers on rather than my normal shoes. I put my running trainers on, and I got my headphones because I thought you really are going to need to run, and you need to try and keep your head straight so you make it. And literally left. I forgot the keys, which I always find bizarre how you make these decisions, but put music on and ran all the way to the Evelina. A few moments of stopping and having a bit of a breakdown because I kind of knew what I was running into, and then literally ran through the doors to see you, and you were still holding Marnie.
So there's no right or wrong. Everybody's got their own journey, and I wanted to say that because I think different people will have different feelings on those sorts of topics.
Thank goodness for my sister being there. So she'd come back from travelling early, She was at the birth as well. So I was with Maria. Thank goodness for Maria just being by my side.
I'll hold on tighter to you.
Even right to the end when Marnie passed away and we had her funeral, that, really special people that came to Marnie's funeral from Echo, and it felt that it wasn't just whilst you're here and whilst you're going through that hard time that we're here, but actually it's like life beyond that, and it just felt so special and like genuine that I think that some people from Echo came to Marnie's funeral.
I think
right through to the end.
Yeah, I think we felt very supported.
Yeah, we're coming up to her eighth anniversary of losing her, aren't we? And still Echo are part of our life. We still want to have them as part of our life because it wasn't just for that bit where she was here. So Team Marnie Moo was started by our best man, your friend Ali.
It was.
So when we were living in London and Marnie was in the Evelina, he wanted to do something to help support us. Since then, it was such a special event, and I felt that we raised some really good money for Echo, that we just wanted to grow it. So it became something we wanted to do yearly. And one year it was almost like, it was about 60 odd runners, wasn't it, with all the children?
Yeah, we hit 60. Yeah, we hit 60.
So we had a team doing the full marathon, some doing the half, and then the superhero fun run. Some people doing the Rocket 5K. And it's, we've kept that going. And I think we've raised well over 10,000 now over those years.
For me, I think when it first happened, so when Marnie first passed away, we were having counselling. And at that time, through counselling, I think I had in mind that the grief would just kind of vanish, just go away after 3 years, 4 years or something. And I think that's not really how it works. It never really goes away. You just learn to live with it. We've got 3 other children, we have busy lives, we've got full-time jobs, we've got each other, there's lots of other things, amazing, wonderful things to live for and to be happy with and to be content with and all those good things.
Obviously we'd change the outcome, but I actually wouldn't change a hair on her head. Just the heart maybe.
Yeah, just the heart.
The rest, I wouldn't. That's kind of what made her her.
And you came to me like a bird to the breeze, and we floated together for a while. But you had to go, now I carry